Hey, everybody. So we have a lot to get through today. We have some major tech earnings. As always, these videos are going to be a compilation now of what transpired today, what we're going to do about it tomorrow. Tonight, we have a ton to go over with the earnings that have taken place with, in technology. I mean, there's a lot going on right now with Apple. Even Amazon's getting some action today. Facebook obviously is up 7%. We're going to get into that. There's some big movers out there today. We're even going to get into BTX. As always, we're going to do these in alphabetical order. Some people have been kind enough to start putting the timestamps in, and then I just post the timestamps in the description. Whoever would like to do that, you're more than welcome, and I'll gladly do it. But we have a lot to get over, and for those that are new, please subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications, because what we go over here is extremely actionable. We go over key levels, what to do, just help people develop a game plan on how they can get better at being a trader, and try to cut rid of all the fluff and just really get to what's, what you need to do. So hopefully you find this informative and educational. I mean, I know I do, and I've been doing this 20 years. So let's just get into it. So first and foremost, Apple. Apple was in our newsletter, and the newsletter's free. There's a link in the bio and description. It comes out 3 times a week. So, we got in at 131. The question is, what do you do now? Well, the bottom line is I'm going to have to put this data in so you can see what's going on. Okay. You're above this line. You're above that 135.5 line after hours. Okay. So the earnings report was excellent. I mean, iPhone sales, I can't even believe it. iPhone sales are up 60%. I think it was 66% to be exact, year over year. Like that's insane. To me, it's just absolutely insane. But this is clearly going to break out here. Now, whether or not it pulls an AMD, which we're going to get into today, and sells back down before it goes higher, is anybody's guess. My thought right now on people are going to chase growth. So I think this continues to move. We're in at 131. As I told everybody on Twitter, I added into this call. When the call was made and I read the report, I added instantaneously. The numbers and the earnings there were just huge. So if you're not in this, what are you really looking for? Look, you want to get above, you want to make sure it's above the 135.46 level because that's resistance. And we can throw in some more bells and whistles here. Let's put the 5 and the 8 in, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. See how they're curling up? And we did that video in that Trade Like a Pro series, which shows, these crossovers. I mean, this is I hate to say these words because it always winds up where you blow up, but this is a no-brainer. I mean, this is going higher. The only issue you're going to have with it is it's going to take forever because it's $1 trillion company now. So it takes a long time to turn that ship, but you're heading back to 145. I see no reason to do anything with it until it gets to that level and then make a decision. So let's just keep rolling here. I do want to show one thing because this was pretty simple stuff, but let me just show this. So this is it after hours, and let's just get into the 1 minute so that you can see what's going on here. Okay. As soon as you see this and you see this kind of earnings, right? Yes, you're always going to give some back, but if you're trying to buy after hours, I just want people to understand this. You can see the flag that's forming on the 1 minute chart, right? And so you could see the breaks, and that's exactly how you play it. I mean, the volume is never going to be what it was, during the day, but that's exactly how you play this. It's not too complex. You just look for chart recognition and chart patterns. So ALV was one that we bought earlier in the week on the breakout, and then it came back down, and we did okay with it. Let me get rid of this because it'll change the way the data looks to what is more actionable and really what's going on. So you're above the 5-day right now. It's holding in there. Look, this can easily, I've said this since we entered it, this can easily come back down and retest this trend line. And if it does, and you don't want to be there around there, then you need to sell the stock. There's not really much more to say here about this one. It had a nice move. It's a thin one, but it can go. Pardon me, I got to have a cup of coffee. So I do think it can go, but you're going to have to deal, as I said in the newsletter, you're going to have to deal with volatility for a while. Now, this one was nasty today. Kind of surprised it did this. This was an excellent earnings report and we sold down. That's not really what you want to see. So I want to clear up a couple things here. Let's get rid of the 5 and we're going to get rid of the 8-day because we really don't need it, do we? And we're going to shrink this down, get rid of this, come over here. And, so we opened here, came to here. I mean, we encapsulated the previous day, which is not really what you want to see at all, even though it's red. But what has me about this volume, and that's what I'm saying, you could be close to this being over. See this level of volume versus this? Like, hold on one second. Let me just show this. I pointed this out yesterday, and I wanted people to understand this because it's an important concept. So you look at relative volume, right? So you see this bar? See when it sold off down here? Yes, it went down a little bit further. You went from, 75... 77 to 74. So you went down another 3-4 points here. And that could happen here too. We could go down through the 21 or through the 200, test this, come to this cross and then come back. But when you have this much exhaustive selling, usually that's pretty much the end of it. And that's what I think is happening here with AMD. You do not go into AMD tonight with a hope and a prayer if you bought it, because you opened at the high, you closed at the low. It's clearly, in my opinion, going lower tomorrow. There's really very little doubt about that. This is as bearish as a bar as you can get when you open at the high and close at the low. But doesn't mean that all semis are going to go down. And a couple of them I actually added to today and threw trades out there on Twitter, and I'll walk through those a little bit later. Again, everything's going to be in alphabetical order, but you cannot touch this until this bottom is in. So you're really going to want to see a day of a higher high on the daily, and we're not even close to that yet. We're not even done going down yet. So if you're interested in this, give it another day to sell off, and then we can take a look at it. Very similar to what is happening in Tesla. Very, very similar to that. So Amazon, let's just look at this. I think that this is fairly interesting just from the standpoint. Oh, look, we have it already up here. Oh, let's get rid of this one. Remove this text. Okay. So see this base? I mean, all you've done since June is base. It's all it's done. Okay. And then you tried to break out and you're still trying to break out. And you can see this, right? So there's not really much to do here. You have earnings coming out. Everyone's saying, oh, they're going to split. Why? Why would he split the stock? I'm not saying he doesn't, but why? And that's not really a catalyst. It's cheaper and it drives the stock up because people buy it. But he loses control because more shares outstanding. There's a whole litany of things behind it. But that said, I don't know if he splits it or not. I'm more interested in what this chart is telling me. And right now, this chart is telling me I'm at the high end of the band, and until it breaks out here, there's really nothing to do. And at this point, buying this to the second quarter earnings, it's a little risky because this is not their best quarter. Their best quarter obviously is Christmas time. So if you're buying it with that hope because of what's going on with the pandemic, I don't think those numbers are going to be as juicy, but let's just stick with the technicals. So you can see every time you get up here, what happens? It sells down every single time we get up here. Right? Let's just put that in there so you can see what I'm talking about. Every single time you're above this line, what happens? It sells down. So why would I want to be, why be involved? Let this prove itself. Let it close over here and move higher. And what you could look at here, when you get into situations like this, you can look at the weekly. See what the weekly is telling you. Now the week's not over. I'm fully aware of that. But you can see like, geez, if I can close here on a weekly, that would be an all-time high close on the stock, right? See how you get a different perspective by looking at a different time frame, right? See what I'm talking about? So if I close here on the weekly and I can close above that line, that's an all-time high weekly close, even though that these little wicks are here. So that would be important. So let's see we'll see how that plays out. ARVL. We've looked at this one before. I don't believe we have. Let me just throw the ticker symbol up here, ARVL. And again, we're just going to stick in alphabetical order and just rock and roll with this. I mean, I really don't see any reason to get involved with this. So it's obviously a newer issue, and you should be able to just see what's going on here. But if you can't, let's just put it in. So here's the one downward trend. And then you can actually see there's a couple different trends in here. So you can actually see there's this trend, and then there's a couple different trends in this one. This is not something I really want to go near. I mean, it's great that it's above the 21 day, but I need to get above this. I need to get above that 50 day. You can see it's had trouble with the 50 day here. It's had trouble with it here. So there's really no reason to get involved in this. The reason that I wanted to show this one, because everything that we show now has to be actionable, is if you're into this one, you need to be very careful. Because if you start rolling near this, you can easily go here. So in other words, if you start rolling, okay, from here, you can easily go to here. If you start rolling from this 50-day moving average, right? It can easily come back down to here. Why do I say that? Because it's done it once, it's done it twice, and there's no reason it can't do it a third time. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're in this one. This is not something I'd be running into right now. Blink was, Blink has been on our short interest list, and we had a couple of those on there that that are probably in here. I think that we're going to go over today that did very well, that were on that top 10 short interest list, and I think they're in here. I think we're going to wind up covering them. This is one that really hasn't done anything yet to what we think it can do, and you can just see what's going on here. You are above the 50 and the 21, but you couldn't get above that 39.40, could you? A matter of fact, you closed right on it, didn't we? Like, look at this. Look at where we closed. And everybody knows this line's been here. I didn't put this in today. It's been here for a while. We closed right on it. So, I mean, what does that tell you? It tells you 39.40 is an issue. Okay, until we get through 39.40, and we've already closed above the 50 and the 21, and they're crossing, which is a great sign. And we're at the lower end of this trend line, right? We're at the lower end of the rising wedge. This has massive potential, massive. It's just got to get above this little resistance point. And, some people that want to be more conservative can look for that 40 3/4 swing now off that high. But frankly, for me to play this, a close over 39.40 to 39.50, this has my attention. And just look at the volume kicking in today on this bad boy. Like, this was really interesting. Hold on. Like, look at this. Like, this is no joke. I mean, there's volume out there. There's volume coming into the stock. And I think that's really important to understand. I do explain this to people. I'm going to explain it again so people can understand this. When you see volume at the end of the day, it is usually institutions that are buying, and they don't want you to know that they're buying. Just keep that in mind. And the reason for it is they know that us as traders, like, I'm assuming I know I have a couple of guys that are at institutions that listen to me because I'm friendly with them, but the majority of people are beginners or they are intermediate or advanced, right? But they're not trading, billions of dollars. So the one thing that we have as traders that we can do is we can be nimble. They can't be nimble. They have to be sneaky. That's why they have, black pools, dark pools. They have, they go out there where they trade synthetics so that you can't really see what they're doing, or else they get picked off left and right by the smaller birds, which is us. So at the end of the day, they think to come in there and they try to buy. And that's exactly what transpired here. So that shows more institutional sponsorship is coming in here. That's not mom and pop buying here. And then if I blow this up on the daily, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. And look at the spike over. See how it all dried up, all went away? What happened today? Boom. For those that watch that candlestick pattern, what do we have here, right? We have a bullish engulfing, not of one bar, but of two. Give me a 39.50 close, and you need to be looking at this. Bumble. It did a couple things. To me, it's on the precipice of being something that you should be looking at. And I'm going to drill down into this. It's not there yet, but it can be actionable within a day or two. If you get through this 50-day, which we have not had yet, it's not happened, and you get above this 64 level after the good earnings that we have that took us up, right? Like, look at these levels. Okay, they haven't moved. The support has not moved. Okay, we undercut here. We have a double bottom that's put in. Why is there a double bottom? Because we closed above it. retested it, opened below it, retested it. This bottom is in. Anything can happen, obviously, but you can go on the premise that this bottom's in. Now, on a much minor support on this one, see that 61.20? We're through that today, okay? Bonk, bonk. So that's also another line, and that's also important. But get me through this 50-day and this $64, and you should be looking at this. This one I'm going to cover because people were asking me about it all day today. Look, when you have these smaller names that people are going to run up, I'll trade them, but I'm in and out of these things by the end of the day because you really have no idea how they're going to open and close. But there's one thing that I really wanted to point out today that I think could be helpful to people, and I'm going to have to do this on a 5-minute because I want to get things. I just want to point out a strategy that can work for people. So here's where you're at today. I'm just going to mark this here. Okay. So obviously this had just a banner day. I mean, it's up 100%. Who's not going to want to be in it? But you remember that they halted the stock. Okay. And they halted the stock right around here. Okay. They halted it right. I think it was like 44, 45, 46. It might even have been this bar. I just want to explain this to you. So that is 1310, I think. So we're going to put that there. Okay, now we're going to go back to a 1 minute, and I'm taking a little longer, but this is a really important point that I want people to get. Okay, see this mark? Okay, this is when they halted the stock. This was the first halt, okay, was right here. And just forget about this line for now. Just pretend it doesn't even exist. We'll just throw it over here. Boop. All right, so when they halt the stock for the first time, what it means is that they have so much buying coming in that they can't control it. They can't even find sellers. So they panic and they sell, right? They can't sell something anymore. How do you sell it? You got to halt it, find out where the imbalance is, and go back to it. Once that transpires, you usually see buying coming in. So the minute that they halted this stock, the first halt, not the second or third halt, but usually when they halted on the first time, you know that it's going to go higher. Now, where that higher was, and it worked perfectly. Like if you look at just off of that move, okay, I mean, you went up, another 7 points, 16%. I mean, that alone was a trade. And then you could see the trade here, and you could see the fall here. And everybody knows these patterns that watch those candlestick charts. And you could see you broke the base. And, this is just a simple 1 minute chart, but you should be able to understand that this is a flag, right? Let's get rid of this. So, and hopefully everyone got that little concept. But it's an important concept. It's just a one halt rule. Think of it, nothing more than that. And if it takes out the previous bar low, that's your stop. You see this wedge? I mean, so this is a 1 minute chart, so it's not, it's not the tightest thing in the world, but you get where I'm going with this. The minute you broke this, that was it. It was done, right? You have a bull flag, 1 minute after a halt, it broke. That's it. Game over. No reason. But you can see even here you have these evening star patterns in here that were clearly indicating that this was coming to an end. But try to remember that rule. Now, I was going to try and do these all in order and then go over CLOU and go over everything else, but I'm just going to rock and roll and keep everything in alphabetical order so that whoever does do this, if somebody does decide to timestamp this, that at least it's in alphabetical order. So right now, after hours, we are at 2808. So we are above this, the CLOU. These are software names. And I just want to point this out. I'm going to drop this down here. This was in the newsletter. Again, the newsletter is in the description. Just click the link to get it. It's free. It comes out 3 times a week. I think we're up to 3,000 people in it. I have to look at the exact number. But when I get to a certain number, I'm going to actually have to stop it, as I've told people already, just because I can't have everybody in the same trades. It'll be counterproductive. Anyway, with what's happening here, get me through that 28, and you're going to start seeing these kinds of names move. Okay, this is cloud-based ETF. Just remember that, the 28 level, it's really important. A gentleman asked me to look at, coin today. Look, I think that they are in a space. The biggest concern that I have, okay, maybe if I could spell coin right, that would be more impressive, right? And let's use caps. There we go. Okay. So, look, here's my thought on this. Okay. I really think there's a true issue with this tax liability out there. I don't want to get into the political jargon, but I truly believe there's an issue out there until this resolves itself. And people are going to stay away from the stock if they don't understand their tax liability. Now, let's just look at what's going on. Let's forget all about that for a second. You're going to have to think about this logistically. Why do you need a Coinbase account, right? Let's get rid of all these segment lines. Why do you need a Coinbase account? I want to buy Bitcoin. I want to trade Dogecoin. Whatever it is. You want to be on here. You want to get paid for your crypto, right? So someone else can be on the other side of it and short it. They want to pay you money for it. I mean, the whole thing makes sense on why at this stage you want to have an account. This is pretty much the acts in the name of having an account. So from that standpoint, they are the brand. Now it gets into a valuation standpoint, but one of the things I really want to point out here, and this is why I got rid of everything else, and I just want to do the hourly. Okay. So this was the hourly, and people that know me know that I show these ranges, and I'm just going to show this range. Okay. So we're going to drop this down a little bit so you can see the whole range. Whoops. There we go. So here you are. I'm just going to draw this out. And here's that's the first hour of trading. Okay. We went to 429 to 361. Okay. Understand there was no institutional sponsorship of this stock. They did not go through an investment bank. They did not place stock with anybody. They sold it to the street. Okay. And they got every dollar that they could for it. I don't blame them. I'm just saying that they didn't place stock with institutions. So the float on this thing is just out there. So whoever owns it and doesn't want to be in it, boom, they can get out, right? And the chances of who got in this at $400, $380, I can almost guarantee you, besides someone like ARK that took a small position on a percentage basis, it's mom and pop that bought this. Okay, thinking that they're going to make, millions, and that's not what's happening. So now reality is setting in, okay? And what you're starting to see is the rallies are failing, right? See how we're failing? Now we can't even hold the bottom of this. And everybody that follows me knows this kind of stuff by now, right? Supports and resistance flip. Look what's happening. Can't get above it. Can't get above it. So before you even consider buying this stock, you have to get above 310. Anything else, I mean, if you can drill down on this, and I know I'm spending more time with each individual stock now since we're limiting them, but if you get into this and you just start looking at this on a 15-minute basis, and you just start looking at the days, if I didn't tell you what this was, you wouldn't go near it, right? If I didn't tell you that this was Coinbase, you'd look at this and go, oof. I mean, this looks awful. So, and that's the point that I want to get out. That's what's actionable about this one. Don't do anything because it's not telling you anything yet, right? In the meantime, look what it's telling you. I mean, it's telling you that you have an issue, right? It's telling you that we're going to go lower. The mere gap of this at the end of the day, and I don't know what type of volume we saw in the last 15 minutes. Yeah, you saw some selling, but you're in the gap on this now, right? So you could gap fill down to this 291. It shouldn't be an issue. So for me, this is an avoid right now. And if I didn't want to gap down to 291, a lower low of this would get me out of the stock. So I would hold off on that. I know people love the name and they want to be involved with it, but your goal is to make money as a trader and an investor is to make money. This is one that we've been looking at in the past. It's been setting up. It is, in the energy space, but let's just, there we go. Let's extend this out now. So you could see where we closed, right? And that line was obviously there before from when we looked at it, but you can see exactly where we closed on that. So what are you going to be waiting for? You're going to be waiting for that break. We got above that 3870 level. We cleared right through it. And look at the volume down here. Look what's going on. See how we're starting to uptick? See how it's all green? Pardon me. See how we got above the 50-day? This is exactly what you want to see. This is the type of stuff you want to be all over. So it's respecting the 50-day, and then it just started blowing through averages, and it started blowing through support lines. This tells you there's major demand for the stock. So it's definitely something that you want to consider. I would look for a close above this level, and you could see what this level would be. Very simply, you're looking at $40. Make the math simple. $40 would have me interested. FB, there is one. I'm going to go out of order because I just realized I missed one. So, and I apologize, but this is still in the C's, so that'll be okay. It's just should have done it before coin. So I just want to go through this real quick. I added this to the top 10 list on short squeezes. The short squeeze trades, I just want to make this clear. These are trades. These are shorter term trades. Everyone needs to understand that. I'm not stating the long-term fundamentals of this. I'm saying supply and demand, support, resistance. That's all I'm talking about. I want to hammer that point home. So like when we talked about this one on Sunday, this is exactly all I was waiting for. We were waiting for this little break. This was it. I mean, if you go back and watch that Sunday video with those top 10 stocks, you know, we were just simply looking for this break. That was it. That was our line. Boom. We broke. And then the volume came in, which was huge. But look what happened, because we have these marked off, right? And I went through this today with everybody, and I'm going to get into this again because I did warn everybody like, hey, it's not going to break. And I want to show you how I saw that it wasn't going to break so that you can do it on your own without me and learn something, get some learning. So let's get into it. So see this resistance line? Okay. Everyone sees this resistance line. Everybody knows that this is also where the 200-day was. Everybody remembers that from before, right? That's where if you don't remember it, that's where the 200-day was. Just happened to be right where this happened. So let's get rid of this now because that is where the resistance line is. And we're going to put that back in a minute. Everybody recognize this pattern? Okay. So it's an evening star, right? So you have an evening star right underneath the high of the 200-day, and then this kicks in. What's the probability that you're going to break a support? You're going to break from support to resistance, right? So resistance becomes support. It flips it. Support becomes resistance. I have an evening star pattern, and I failed to get above the 200-day moving average. What's the probability of all three of those things reversing and going higher? Minuscule. So, and this is on a 15-minute chart, not a 1-minute chart. So it's even greater on the day. That's why I made the call. Not that it's an all-time top, but that was clear to me. Like, look, we just went from here to here. We're up 20%. It's not breaking. It's time to move on with our lives. And that was the point that I was getting at with it. You know, I don't know if this goes higher. Nobody knows that. You know, you're setting up here for it to push. All I know is that from where we're in to up, if I'm up 20% in the day, you need to ring the register. Now, you don't have to sell the whole thing, but you should be taking some kind of profit. So what do you do now? Can't do anything until it closes above 1085. What's nice about this is that this is sloping down the 200-day, which is kind of a bonus for us because it gets closer to this 1085. Give me a close above 1085 and I'll revisit the stock. Until then, I would not go near it now. So let's get into Facebook because they had earnings tonight, and I'm going to throw in the after hours. Their earnings were stellar. You know, there's really no other way to say it. They just had amazing earnings. But I just want to get into this real quick for those. You know, do not chase after hours. Like I bought more Apple after hours, and I don't want to, you know, don't do as I say as I do. Let's get rid of this huge circle. Let's get rid of this one. And let's get into this. So here's the issue. This is a weekly chart. Okay. And so this is the top of the channel, of the all-time high channel. If I drew it, it comes all the way back down to here. Okay. So this will tell you that roughly that you're looking at another 10 points in this before you hit the top of the all-time weekly channel. It's a very hard channel to break. It's a really hard channel to break. I'm not saying that it can't break it. I'm just saying it's a very difficult one to break. So for me, you know, 10 points to be in this at 325 is a 3% move. I have no interest. After hours, there was a trade there. Frankly, you know, I did do a couple little trades on it, but there's another way to play what's going on with Apple and what's going on with Facebook. And Facebook's earnings were great. And if you're in Facebook, congratulations. It's a great trade. You need to be careful of this weekly and up here, of this level right up here, okay? Because it's really hard to break those. I mean, it didn't break them, you know, since, I mean, we can go back to since inception. It has not broken out of this. So, you know, it's not going to break out just because you own it this time. So 332 looks like that's our level. But if you're in this and you're looking at this, and this is why you always have to look at multiple time frames. You're looking at this, you're getting all excited, not realizing that you have a resistance line up here. right? That's why you have to start looking at multiple time frames. But there's another way to play this trend, and actually you can even juice the return on that. And people that are in the newsletter that have been following me for a while know this. This is FNGU, and this is one that we're in. Let me just pull this over so you can see this. So we're in at 33.5. I think we closed right at, well, I'll tell you in a moment where we closed. Probably closed flat. Yeah, we closed flat on the trade. So, you know, but what you're seeing now is you're up $1, okay, on this after hours. So just to put that in perspective, okay, just so you can understand where I'm going with this. Okay, this is a 3X ETF for FANG stocks, okay? You have Apple, you know, Netflix, Google, the whole gang is in here. You can actually go through the holdings and take a look at it. What I'm getting at is a $1 move on a $30 stock is 3%. Okay. On a $300 stock, how big of a move do you need to get the same percentage of value? So just think like that sometimes, you know, instead of chasing these because people say, well, how am I supposed to buy this? It's so expensive. You know, frankly, you could buy deep in the money calls, and I am going to do a video on options. But what you have to think about here is just go out and buy FNGU. If you want to own Facebook and you don't feel like paying up for it, buy this Apple, Google, Netflix. I mean, everything's in here, and this is way more stable. And you know, if you chart your percentage performance of this versus Facebook for the year, you'll find that you'll outperform this on this if you buy this right. So just consider that, something to consider, just another way to think. That's all. GOGO, I wanted to go over as actionable just because of what I've seen here. And I just want the person who's asking about this to be careful. Okay. We rejected today. So you rejected support is now resistance again. Okay. That was 11.13. We closed at 11.10. Let me put this up here. Get rid of this. 11.09. And then I broke the 200-day again. Okay. I need to make a higher high here. And if I make a lower low, consider getting out of this unless you're staying in this longer term. You have a nice slope here, right? But you're at the high end of that slope. So that means I can come to the low end of that slope. You see what I'm talking about? See this trend line right here and right here? I'm at the high end of it. You know, let's just do it. Let's just draw it real quick so that you can see what I'm talking about. And let's get rid of this so that you understand where I'm going with this. Understand what I'm putting down. All right. And I'm just going to leave the arrows. And as everybody knows, you clone these lines because you want the same trajectory. And wherever they land, right? That's how you draw your channels. Your channel should not have two different lines. But you can see it fits pretty much perfectly in there anyway. See what I'm talking about? How you're at the high end of this channel. Now you're throwing the bells and the whistles. Okay? You're at the high end of the channel, and you're hitting the 50-day. Yes, the 21 is curling. Yes, I'm sure the 5 and the 8 are adding value right now. You're at the high end of the channel. You can come to the low end of the channel if you don't break through this. If you break through this, it can keep going. But you're at a critical junction on GOGO. Consider that. So, you know, Google, everybody, this is why I keep saying FNG. You know, look, this is what happens. They have these huge spikes, right? And this is what they do every single time. I mean, it's like clockwork into earnings. Every single time you can see these. What do you do with these spikes? Very, very clearly, this is just people that are dumping the stock that are probably, you know, long-term holders. But see this daily long chart? Look, we got over it. Now, we got over that line. This is exactly what I was talking about with Facebook on a weekly basis. And a line's probably similar to that in there. But let's go over Google because, you know, I want to go over these big tech earnings with everybody. This was a great report. It was stellar. But we closed at the low of the day. So the question becomes, what do you do with it now? It's very simple. You need to see if you hold above this. If you do not hold above this line, you're going to fill this gap. Okay. And the gap fill starts at, you know, 100 points lower. So just consider that. I mean, it's not something you really want to be a part of because you have to go all the way down to here to really fill the gap. Now it's 90 points, but nonetheless, nobody really wants to go for that that I know about, even though it's a $2,000 stock. So just consider it. You cannot chase this here. This is unchaseable here. Google is. You have to just wait and see what happens with it. So GSX was one that we had in the in that stock list. right? The short squeeze. And I'm just going to zoom in on this because this is kind of interesting what's going on here. And we're just going to focus right in on, this was that whole Hwang move down. And then you closed right above this, right? But look at this action today on this. And this, obviously, this is, GSX. This was that support line. Look how you hit it, tested it. Look how you went below it and bounced over it. And then you broke out of this today. And then you never broke this bar out. This trade's still intact. It's still intact. Nothing's changed. So if you are in this, even though you didn't close at the highs of the days, which everybody likes to see, there's really no reason to do anything here. I think this looks great. Just stay with it. So LABU, we keep talking about this, and I'm getting closer to putting it in the newsletter. The issue that everyone's going to be aware of, that everybody already knows, is what I'm looking for is to close above this 200-day, which we just have not done yet. And if you go and take a look at the IBB, which is this, that's the 3X index for it. Look how we hit resistance and we bounce down, and now we're consolidating. So especially with LABU or any of these 3X ETFs, you have to understand the depreciation of them. So there's not a real big hurry to buy them. Let them work themselves out before you invest. Make sure that they're actionable. Like how we did with TQQ. We made sure it was actionable before we got involved. Same thing I'm waiting for with the TNA before we buy, IWM. So, Mara, look, you have this little base here. Everyone's getting excited, right? I got to get above this 38.53, but let me show you something on this that people really aren't paying attention to. Look where you closed, okay? Here's the bottom sign of it. Remember, these lines don't go away just because you want them to, right? So you're at these rising trend lines, they become support and resistance. You're at a resistance line. You're not at a warm and fuzzy spot here. You're not above the 50-day, and you're right at resistance. So to me, I would avoid this. I would not be rushing into this. And what should bother you even more about Mara, Riot, Can is Bitcoin went back up. Okay, these stocks are nowhere near on a percentage basis back up. If Bitcoin's not down, and this is why I say if people want to buy Bitcoin and they want to participate in Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. I mean, just to put this in perspective, and I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but I think this is important. Let me just increase the opacity of this so people can see it. Okay, you're down 34%. Okay, Bitcoin's not down 34%, right? So if you want to get part of the Bitcoin craze, I'm going to tell you to buy Ethereum, but that's a completely different story. But 11% here. Right? So I'm down 3 times as much in the stock with more risk. So if I want to play that, that's fine. If I want to buy the miners for some reason, then I understand why you're buying Mara and Riot. But if you want to play the craze, buy the index that's closest to it or the commodity that's closest to it. That's the best advice I can give you with that. MUDs is something we put in the newsletter, and I was pretty vocal today about that. I trimmed it and moved the rest of my position. I sold half my position and moved the rest to break even because I want to stay in there. But it did something that I didn't like. And when it did that, it really bothered me because it shouldn't have done that. And it proved that I was actually right with how it closed. When we got below, we should not break above these lines and get below them. But what got me today was this. And let me just get to this. So everyone knows where that line is, right? And then you can see right here was this 1696 line. So when I rallied up, okay, and everyone can see this, right? Hopefully you can see this. What does that pattern look like, right? It looks like an evening star. So I'm like, okay, well, we're going to give it more time because I really want to stay in this so that we give it more time. Then you have this, and let's get rid of these indicators. Then you have this nasty red bar down. And I'm like, no, I'm basing, right? So essentially, here's my base right on resistance, okay, which is support now, right? Remember how we couldn't get above it? Then we come back, couldn't get above it, right? And then we break above it. Okay, support and resistance flip. Now, this is an indicator that I use, and it serves a purpose. Let me expand these out and click on it. So during the day, sometimes I will look at the VWAP just to get an understanding on where it is. You know what? Let me expand these out. And all this does is just show you where all the players are, who's holding the bag and where they're holding the bag at, right? That's all it's showing me. So I'm watching this and I'm going, now just so you can understand this whole rise up, not one 5-minute bar close below it, not one. The whole rise up, meaning whoever wants to buy this is chasing it and buying it, and it's getting support every time it's there. First 5-minute bar down, and people say, well, aren't you trying to stand there for a year? Yeah, that's fine, but that's what I'm trying to do. But that doesn't mean I want to lose or break even on the whole position. So get out of half, right? I'm up 21% in a day. Get out of half, hold the rest. If I break even on the rest, I made 10% on my invested capital in 3 days. I'll do that all day long, because you just keep turning it over and turning it over. That's what you're trying to do. You're an investor. Your money's supposed to make money. That's just how I invest. I'm not saying I don't have long-term holdings, but those stocks are up so much that I don't have to worry about them. And I got those positions that I've been in for years by doing what I'm showing you right now. When they don't break those positions, like maybe this goes to 15 now, maybe it doesn't, but I have that position on, right? And it really boils down to money management. It's all math, and people have to understand that. So this closed below the 1696. Look, I'm really hoping that it doesn't break this and go lower. But, what I'm probably going to do in the newsletter tomorrow, depending upon how this closes, is you're probably going to see me raise the stop to this 1527 level. We shouldn't roll. We should not roll after breaking this. We should not get a lower low. If you see a lower low tomorrow and you're still up in it, and you're not willing to go to your break even on it, there's your stop. And you can't buy this now until you close above 17. You need to see a close above 17. You can trade it, but before you stay in there overnight, you need to see a close above 17. I don't know why it sold off today. It could have just sold off with profitabilities. People taking a profit, but it shouldn't have done that. So I was pretty clear today, and it was funny, no one asked about ENPH because I guess I was pretty clear last night about that one. But I was pretty clear about this this morning. People were like, oh, I'm going to buy this because it's going to be down. I'm like, do not buy the ones that are missing earnings. Very simply, do not buy the ones that are missing earnings. It's not that hard, right? And the reason for that, I don't want to hear about the rationale. It's a great company. It's just not. I think that Pins is a great company. But what you need to think about is no one is running into a growth stock right now that's missing earnings. And everyone's going to say, well, what did it miss? Very clearly, it missed its monthly average users. Okay, they fell off. And when that transpired, this is what you get. And that's exactly what happened here. So really what you need to do here is just understand that. And there's really nothing more to concern yourself with here. What do? You can't go near this. This is not done selling off. You're getting a huge sell-off here, but this is not done. How do I know that? I opened at the high. I closed at the low. I mean, if I pull this up, this was the easiest short all day long. I mean, what did we do all day long? We had the fake rally up, right? Where, and we always talk about this. Okay. We always talk about this, that, look at the opening bars for your range. Okay. Look at that range today. So it never got above that, right? And that was it. You could even have used this and said, when it breaks here, I'm going to short it. And you still would have made $1. So right up here. And that's what people were doing. They were shorting it right up here, right at the opening price. That was basically the high, the open. So that tells you that you have nothing but selling all day long. So there's really nothing to do there. So I think you just have to kind of keep that in mind. But I'm not saying not to buy this. I'm saying that this is not your time. You're not there yet. You put the indicators in, take a look. You're going to the 200-day. If you stop before the 200-day, I'd be surprised. But I think you're going to $60. I think there's another sale there. I think you're going to the $60 mark. And some people might be willing to ride that out. I'm not one of them. Qualcomm. So I really like Qualcomm. We had some earnings tonight that were excellent. And, that's really what you needed to see. You came down, you rallied. You're going to encompass all this tomorrow. This was a stellar report. Could it sell down like AMD? Sure. Of course it can. The report was excellent. There's no holes in the report. I don't see any reason why that's going to happen, but could it happen? Absolutely. And if it does, then you have to concern yourself with that and you have to move on. But right now, I just don't foresee that. So let's keep that in mind and we'll go from there. There's not really much more to say. What you really want to see tomorrow, you're above the 21 and the 50. If you open above this 141.90, use that as a key level, as you're open and closing out the position during the day. But wait for the first 15 minutes and see how it acts. But I really like that. I really do. So let's keep going. QFIN. So today people were asking me, I was very clear, I bought this the other day and I was very clear where I bought it. And I stated yesterday that, I got in a little too early and I made a mistake on my entry. Let me close this up. I bought it up here the other day and I just jumped the gun on it. So I was just watching the action in it today. And this is just the 5-minute chart. And, this is not showing all the data, but we're just going to leave this open because it shows exactly what I saw. See how we got up here and then we reversed. As soon as I had a print lower, that was it. I was like, okay, because all it was showing me was I'm at the same exact level I was before where it rejected. Remember candlesticks? And this is price rejection. Look where the rejection happened. Okay, same exact spot. Showed me I had a seller. I'm like, all right, I'm even on the trade essentially, down about 20 cents. Why stay in this? I'll get back in later. And some people think that I move a little too fast. That's okay. My goal is to make money, and that's what I do. And it's, I've been doing it for 20 years. I can always get back in. I can't always sell where I want to sell, but I can always buy a stock, but I can't always sell at a price. Learn to act on what you can control, not what you can't. That's just a little piece of advice. So I like this. I think it's ready to go. And as soon as I get above these 3 little bars, guess what I'm going to do? Get back into it. Right around the same price, maybe about 25 cents less than where I sold it. Unless it gaps tomorrow, which you could do, just to spite me. It won't be the first time. It sure as heck won't be the last. So, the Qs, I want to just go through this. I was going to wait to the end, but I'm just going to keep going through everything. Look, we're above 338.77. I know people are bored because they're watching what's going on in the market right now. This looks great. I mean, there is nothing bad to say about it. And I just want to point this out. The 50 is up. The 21 is pointing up. Life is good. There's really nothing to do here. And stay with that TQQ trade. That's not in here, TQQ, but you can see that. Just stay with it. Could you be forming a double top? Yes. I don't think that you are. I think you're just consolidating on RILY before you go higher. Would I add to it here? No, because it's shown where the top is. And now we can just take one of these because we don't really need 3 bars down here anymore for support. And you can see where your next point, your pivot point would be, right? $76. There's nothing to do here except wait for it to rally again and go up. And you should not be surprised by this, knowing where that trend line was when we drew it. So it is what it is. RVLV, it's funny. We were just swapping war stories. Me and some of my friends have been trading for years, and we were talking about stocks that we sold, selling Tesla at 40 and Amazon at 80, years ago. But this is one that got me the other day where I was looking at this going, man, I was in this at $20. And someone explained the story to me and they were right. And I just got out of it because I got stopped out, but it happens. If I stayed with the story, I probably would have entered it again, but it's on to the next trade. So and people need to understand that's going to happen a lot to them, and they're going to have to get past it. You can't be in all the winners. It's just not going to happen. See how it respects the 50-day? That's where you buy it. So, and every time it gets above the 20-day, that's great. I am forming a wedge here that's really cool. That's a price rejection. That's why I left it out. And it doesn't fit the other, 6 times it hits that line for people that are going to ask. So you're in a kill zone, very much like SE. So really what you want to see is you want to let it do what it's going to do. Now, if I was a betting person, which I am, this is going to break out. And when it gets above that line, that's something that you're going to want to take a look at. I should have turned off the English guy on my one thing. Should have turned him off, but let me just hold on 1 second. There we go. Got rid of him. So what you're going to see here is 51 3/4. Okay. That's what you're looking at, right? 51 3/4 is where you look at this, and make sure you know when this is coming out with earnings. I don't know off the top of my head, but this can move on that. Skills. So I put this in the newsletter, and I want to be really clear about what's going on. You are in a trading market. Okay, this is how the market usually responds. You're still in a bull market. People are just looking for these breakaway runs like they've had before. That's not normal. So you need to be able to understand that you're going to get in trades. They're going to backfill, and then they're going to go higher again. If you're not willing to do that, then when they rally, you need to sell into the rally. Yes, you're not getting these doubles and triples like this right now. Doesn't mean that you're not going to get them in 6 months or a year or two later, but don't think that you're going to get returns like this where you're going from 12 to 40 every year. It doesn't work that way. You have to get what you can get and then move on. So what we got here with this, we got in at 14 3/4. We went up here in 2-3 days. We were up 30%. And I was very clear, 2040, we have to stay above it. So what happened when we didn't stay above that level? Came back down, tested the 200-day. So this was not the time to be buying. Let everybody else, buy for you. The time to be buying was when it executed what we needed to do. Why did we buy it here? The bullish engulfing and the break of the secondary, right? We broke through this and this break up, and then the bullish engulfing break and the break of the double bottom, because we undercut. And when we undercut and then reverse, that's what we want to see. And we put it on. The volume was insane. And that's why we put it on. So that's when we got in. We didn't get in here. So now they're sitting with it. What do you do with it? I was very clear. My stop for everybody should be 16 3/4. Okay. At this point, if that's all you get left out of it is $2 and you make 10% in the week that you're in it, take it. Compound 10% a week for the rest of your life, and you'll be doing cartwheels. So Snap. This was really solid action today, and I just want to walk through this. They did a convertible bond. When you do a convertible bond offering, okay, people will short the stock, go long the convertible bond, book the interest on the convertible bond, and leave the shares outstanding, figure out the difference between the two, and just leave the trade on. And then they use leverage. Okay, that's why the stock came in. What you saw today was excellent action and clearly shows that this is over as far as the selling and the selling pressure. Also, what's really great about Snap's action today, right, is how it acted with pins. And this was a mistake. Every day I look at how I could do better, even after doing this for 20 years. And I would recommend that everybody take that kind of mentality. It does add up. But I made a mistake here not understanding that or forgetting about it and focusing on a bunch of other stuff. When this sold down like this and then got above this level, you can really buy it here, and then this becomes your stop, right? So you're looking at roughly a $2 stop on this. That's okay, because where it can go back up and it can keep going. I mean, it had great earnings, right? So knowing that, I'd want to be in the stock. Okay. And that's exactly what it did. And, I missed this one. Congratulations to those that are in it. This close is staggering, and it's exactly where you want to be. I mean, it's perfect. It's picture perfect. The volume coming in, everything. So, a higher high, and now you really want to get above that 64.5. But this base, I wouldn't be surprised to see this continue now and have a very large push up. I like this idea a lot. So the SOX, why don't we just do the SOXL, since that's a trade that we're all in. I said a stop close below 40, from a 38.25. So you should be out of this, right? You should not be in this trade right now if you're following along with the newsletter. The fact that we closed below the 21-day doesn't make me happy. We could be above it tomorrow and be bouncing around, but there's too much resistance in here. Everyone remember 2 weeks ago, this is where I was saying to get out because we were hitting this inflection point. We didn't break it. And so now you're going to bounce around for a while, and you could bounce around here for a month. So you just need to understand that. I'm still long semiconductors. I still think they look great. We're in a ton of them in the newsletter, and I think that they continue to outperform. But this trade to me is over until it proves itself. And right now it's going to have to prove itself by getting above this trend line before we put it back on. So that's where I am on the SOX. I do not think the SOX is broken. If you look at this, I think it looks fine, but you have a support line here, and now you could just bounce around before you go higher, and I'll find another spot to re-enter that trade. So people were looking at this today and going, well, I got through that level you were interested in. You did. We definitely got through that level. We got through the 21, or we got through the 50-day. The issue that I have with it is you have this now because of where you closed, right? It didn't give me a clean entry. So I have this 23.89 resistance point here and here that's been rejected on the weekly. So I'm not really willing to play this yet. I know people are laughing because I've been saying this for a while, but I have no problem buying this when it was down at the 18 and 16 level to trade it to 20 and try and stay in it. But I'm not going to chase this right now. And I'm going to wait until I get a solid close, which I have not had for 3 months, above this 23.89. Matter of fact, if you look at this, I've only had 3 closes, 1, 2, 3 all time above 23.89. So close above there, and then I will probably add this to the newsletter. I'll probably, at that point, it will be confirmed. So Tesla I want to go over because this is really important. Especially for the people that are in it. You know, I said this when it came out with earnings, that you're going to come down to $700 and you're going to test the 21 and the 50. I mean, it was pretty clear to me that that's what they were going to do to it. And that's exactly what they've done. Now, you have the earnings date, then you have the sell-off, and now you have the more sell-off. And now we have to hold the 50-day. If you don't hold the 50-day, you're going to have a really bad day with this. And that's what you got to be aware of. Okay, that's really how you have to think about it. If you don't get out of the 50-day, you're going to have, if you don't get through that and hold on to there, you're going to have a really bad time. And that could lead us down to here. It could drop substantially. You need to hold this 50-day, and you need to hold what's going on here, or this can roll and get very ugly. Now, your real next spot of resistance is $600. You really don't have anything. And I can even use the wick here, but I was using this open because you also have the bar there, and you can see how that goes all the way across, right? This is why I was using that. And let me just throw that in there because people say, well, why did you use that? See what I'm getting at? Bonk, 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 right? See how many times it hits that 600 level? So, and I'm not going to move it exact, but you get it. So that's your next support. Until then, you really don't have any. So you need to hold there. I'd be looking for that to rally soon, because if it doesn't, you're going to have a problem. So I'd still be looking at that, playing that on the long side. This kind of fell off the radar. Everybody was a darling. Everybody liked it. You're getting above the 50 for the first time since February, and you're above the 21. So let's see what happens with it. But again, I would not touch this till it starts getting through higher highs. Yeah, we got through these, but I have no volume. Nothing's really going on. So, not something that I would jump into. So that's it in a nutshell. Hope everybody found this helpful. Any questions, message me in the comments or on Twitter. As always, subscribe to the channel and make sure you turn on all notifications. Saturday, we are going to do another top 10 buy list of stocks. And I think it'll be important to go over that again. This one that we did last Saturday, we did one of them. It was a hit. And I'm also going to start looking at doing a pre-market show. I just have to work through some of the details on it and how to coordinate it with trading, etc. So that's it. Have a great evening, everyone.